Welcome to the quote-unquote first episode of the Architect and the Operative. My name is Selim Maalouf. I am a HubSpot consultant and solutions architect, and with me is James Bond.
Hey, what's happening?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening. We published our pilot episode last week.
We did. It was so fun, dude.
Yeah, and we got some interesting feedback. Some people that I didn't expect to see the podcast did and commented. It was just an all-around fun experience. I've launched podcasts in the past, but most of these podcasts were cynically I'm just going to say it cynically, they were like lead generation for a brand that I was working with. And so the reception is like just another podcast, but this one, I've gotten some interesting conversations out of it. How about you?
Yeah, same thing. And feedback from places I didn't expect, right? So yeah, it was interesting. Had some people that I haven't seen in a really long time, haven't done business with, say, hey, watch the whole thing. It was great. Those kind of comments are awesome. I mean, it's early, it's fun, we'll see. To me, it's not about, it going crazy. It's, as long as it's fun, I'll keep showing up, dude.
Yeah. In fact, those comments that tell you like, oh, watch the whole thing, those tickle you like that. You
Cool.
feel like, oh, yeah, I made something and you liked it. That feels really good. So yeah, like we're hoping to get this podcast cadence a bit more steady now that we've figured out our branding, launched the podcast pilot, got some feedback. I'm happy to just jump right into it.
Let's rock and roll, dude.
Yeah. So anyone who's been online the past year has been caught in the AI tornado, AI craze, and everybody's focusing on how to get more efficient, how to do lead gen better, how to do outreach better. And sometimes people just forget the fundamentals, and you get a lot of sales professionals that just resurrect some really interesting conversations that you thought were solved for a long time. I did tell you about it during the week. It's the problem with meeting links, and I didn't realize we had a problem with meeting links in 2025.
I didn't understand. I know the post you're talking about. I didn't understand it, but I've got a lot of thoughts that are like, maybe as not how people view it, but
yeah, as someone who's in the field, doing the sales work, doing the dirty work, basically, what are your thoughts on people rejecting meeting links in 2025?
So, well, let me give you, here's what comes to mind for me. There's three camps of theories on how to run the sales process. Getting an appointment is a key component of the process. There's the theory of make it easy, like it needs to be seamless. This is quick, I'm efficient. It gives them the option. That's great. Then there's the theory of, I'm lazy. Like, I don't want to spend the time, and until they book with me, it's not showing me it's important. I'm not going to spend the time. So it's kind of like a conscious laziness, not my brand, but it's out there in a like big way. My camp is more like, what does the customer want? Right? The first camp wants to keep control of the sale, and it's not about always giving the customer choices. It's about I'm running the process, and when I run the process, I stay in control, and therefore I can sort of dictate where I want it to go. And I get that, and there's a place for that. But in the case of choice, I prefer, especially since we haven't even met yet, theoretically, let's say it's a new appointment. I haven't met the person yet. Man, I want options that might work for them. Like, my goal is to get the appointment, right? It's not to spend less time. It's not to use AI only. It's to get the appointment. And so I'm going to give them options. Let me give you an example. So let's say there's some email back and forth, and the emails, hey, can you send over some times where we could meet, or that would be good for you, whatever, right? So they're offering, hey, send me some times, right? I may just send over a couple of options. That's a very valid approach. I would never respond with just my calendar link. That's a little bit of I'm one of two things. I'm in control, you're going to do it my way. And I understand there's a place for that. Getting the appointment is not the place for that, in my opinion. So it's my way or the highway, number one. Or number two, it's, I don't want to deal with looking at my calendar and go back and forth on email. I'm going to send you my calendar, and then I'm going to wait for you to book. I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to reply with some times because that's what they requested. And I'm always going to at least accommodate that because they have a request, I'm going to answer it. I'm just not in the camp of I'm not going to support you in your desire to have some times. I might include my link in a way of, hey, these are the times I'm available. If that's not good for you, it might be easy enough to just click on my calendar link and you can find a time that works for you. This is an option. You choose whatever's good for you. These times work. Great. Reply with an email. You don't want to do my link and reply with some other times. I'm not interested in losing that appointment over like, hey, I'm just not interested. The post we were talking about is like, that's impersonal and that's making the client do the work and that, man, get out of your head. Just work with your client. Just if they want to give you some times, work with them.
Yeah.
And if they want to use your calendar link, great. I'll take the advantage of that too, because now it's automatically booked. Now that email is in my system. Now I can, mark it to them and I can do what I do now that I've captured it. But man, get over just get the appointment.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird for me because when I first encountered meeting schedulers, as a person who's struggled trying to, coordinate meetings with internal stakeholders, and everybody's gotten those email chains where you've got 10,000 replies after people just hashed out what they need to talk about. You have like 10,000 replies, people saying, can you do Monday? No, Monday's booked. Can you do? And then somebody else in the thread comes like, well, those times don't work for me. And it's just, meeting links fix that problem. But that problem is not happening in a conversation with a prospect that you barely know. That problem is happening inside of an organization where everybody knows each other. So like there's a lot of organizations that tell you, well, go look at my calendar, it's up to date and pick a slot. That vibe works. But like, and in my situations when I'm being sold to, there's a lot of times where I'm like, send me, like you said, I tell them, hey, send me a meeting link. I'll find a time that works for me. But there are interesting situations where, and I'm thinking of the tools that we have available. A lot of the meeting schedulers right now have some plugins that allow you to basically do some of the work for the person receiving the link. Like you can send specific times where people can click a button and get that scheduled. So like, it seems like companies who are making these tools understand that this is a point of friction. But it's interesting that there's still, to this day, cases where a meeting link is very valid, but a lot of people look at it from a point of view of like, that's offensive. You are making me do the work. And those people are typically hard to work with. There's a lot of cases where I feel like, well, if you don't want to use my link, I'm happy to use yours. Like, even if I'm the one looking for the meeting, like, if you have that tool, help me out. But again, it's a confusing place where after we've solved this in like 2017, 2018, now we're coming back to, oh, we don't want to use this. We want to go back to the back and forth. So it's just an interesting place we're in. And I'm just, as someone who likes convenient technology, yes, sometimes having a lot of disparate tools can become expensive, but they make life easier. And scheduling links are something that I feel like I'm really scared to let go. Like, I don't want people to just decide collectively, like, okay, we hate meeting links now, and just those meeting links fall out of favor.
I mean, that's, I don't understand.
For inbound,
I just don't understand that.
For inbound, meeting links are amazing.
No, they're huge for sure. Of course. And for the one-on-one, like you said, where you're trying to set the appointment, I mean, it's an option available. Two things. It reminds me of, I'm sorry, we don't take Amex.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? You don't take American Express. Like, if I want to make a sale, I don't want to be in the business of limiting my capacity to collect. That's all I don't take Amex means, is it just limits your ability to collect money. If I want to use Amex, and you don't take it, very well may not buy from you. If that half a point is that important to you, that says a lot, right? So it reminds me of that. It's like, I don't use a meeting link because okay, well, great. You just might miss out. I don't understand that mentality. Second point I want to bring up, where they can get you in trouble. When you have a combined calendar, they're huge. We use them all the time because we do have calls with large groups of people, and I don't know how we used to do it back in the day. I don't even remember. Although we'd probably be all in the same conference room. So, but the challenge you get with multi-links is that oftentimes your times are limited because you got multiple schedules, but there may not be a real block that is in the way. It might be for another reason. And that person that's in the combined calendar may actually really want that meeting, but just so happens that they've got something there because they need it there, but it also might be easily moved. And so again, I just go back to options. If I'm given a combined calendar of any kind, I'll always add on, if you find any limitations, if you find any challenges, just reach out to me with some options. Very well may be able to move everybody's schedule around. Again, it's just back to like, hey, the point is to get a call. If we need to provide options, let's do it. If we need to get on the phone, let's do it. If the meeting link works for you, great. Everybody's happy. We've got it booked and we're all moved on. So it's like, we talk about this point all the time. I'm sure we'll get into it with AI. It's not a one idea and everything else is done. That's not it, ever. It's never that, right? That's why we still have NBC. We have network TV still, right? There's millions of people that were convinced that was going to be gone and over.
Yeah.
Right? So it's never a one and done. So just because you have a new technology doesn't mean that you stop communicating. It doesn't mean you don't provide options. It doesn't mean you work hard to get the appointment, right? So it's more of a philosophy thing for me and not a, whatever. The calendar link is offensive. Come on, get over it.
Yeah. So honestly, what I'm hearing are basically
who would ever think I would get like jacked up about talking about a calendar link, but it just pisses me off.
It is the calendar link is not the issue. The issue is there's a lot of egos happening inside of sales conversations, and egos tend to manifest in interesting ways. So for me, what I'm hearing are 3 takeaways. Have a meeting link ready for when someone needs it or for inbound. Look in your tool of choice for options to suggest times from your calendar. And third thing, the most important, is to get the meeting and not to have the convenience of removing friction.
Yeah. In all this technology, which can be super helpful and transform your life as a salesperson, as a marketer, can transform your business. Like, don't lose the fact that you still have a goal in mind, right? Like, use it to get the goal. Don't use it in place of what strategy is going to get you there. Yeah. Like, use it it's with you. It's not a either or kind of thing.
And honestly, honorable mention from my side, if you're selling into an industry that's high tech and most likely also has calendar links, sometimes it works to ask for a calendar link from your prospect. They might just go ahead and give you one.
Totally.
How do you feel about that one?
I feel like that just happened to me today. It was an inbound, booked with me, and then re-proposed the time. So couldn't make the one he booked. Proposed a different time. I mistakenly accepted it, but had a conflict I couldn't get out of. I mistakenly accepted it. I'm very sorry. We're going to need to reschedule. Here are some options, or if it's easier, take a look at my link. He rescheduled it for a time that I was booked. Sir, I won't say his name. I'm very sorry, but I am booked at that time. So I'm like, we're going to have to work on this. Let's work at it again. I'm looking forward to it. So we're not going to give up here. We're going to work through this.
Yeah.
And you know what he did? He emailed back his calendar link. He just said, here. And then within 30 seconds, I popped on there, booked it at his time, and we're scheduled for tomorrow, and everybody's happy. And now, what do you think the very first thing we're going to talk about on the call is? The fact that we had to go back and forth and schedule and calendar link, and I appreciate you sending that. Made it so easy. And now our ice is broken. Now it's, hey, I know you. I've known you for, 90 seconds through calendar discussions, but I feel like we've done business already.
Yeah. And you might say some people might already know you from some interesting movies that across the years, but yeah, we can't mention those. But yeah, like I mentioned at the top of the show, everybody's AI crazed. And sometimes when someone pokes me, I tend to give my true opinion, sometimes to my own detriment, and sometimes on some really public forums. So I did share my opinion about AI accelerationists around us in the tech space. And honestly, the reason why I got triggered is because I saw a post about someone, a manager that I respect a lot from a very respectable company who has accomplished a lot, posted about here's what you could do with AI. And his post was, you can have AI manage your employees for you. And at that point, I just blew a fuse. Like, dude, why are you getting paid high six figures if you're just gonna let an invest AI look at your employee reports and give them actionable feedback? Like, what's your use in this situation? But I digress. Around like 2-3 weeks ago, NVIDIA did their whole there is the no, it's not Computex, it's CES, it's Consumer Electronics Show for 2025. They had their keynote, and it's mainly the reason why I was watching the keynote, because people might know I play video games on my off time on a computer, and computers need graphics cards, and NVIDIA are the manufacturers of these graphics cards. But these graphics cards also are what is powering AI computation right now. So NVIDIA is ballooning in valuation. The stock market is loving what we're selling. And they did their keynote, and they did a teeny tiny sliver for gaming cards at the start. And then they did like 45 minutes of presentation for here's other things that, businesses can do with this. And this is how you make money. And we're going to create all the tool set for AI. They're basically selling the shovels for people who are looking for AI gold. And the next day, people suddenly were like, AI this, AI that, replace yourself with AI. And I just couldn't. So, and we work in the HubSpot space, and last inbound was the time for HubSpot to be like, here's all of our AI features. And that's great for end users who are interested in using AI. But there was a lot of updates for HubSpot that were geared more towards integrating systems, towards data hygiene, towards like having this customer platform that they've been driving towards for a year and a half. And it was right there ready to culminate in like the best, coming out party for, hey, we can do enterprise now. And suddenly everybody was like, wait, put a pause on that. Let's do our AI stuff, because now's the time. If we announce our AI stuff next year, that'll be too late. So a lot of that advancement was shadowed by all this new AI stuff. And honestly, in our daily work, we haven't been diving deep into HubSpot's AI. And it's just, I've been in a situation where I'm looking around me and I'm like, is everybody losing their mind? So yeah, it's just my mini rant, and like just feeling like in a world of AI accelerationists, are we, the very few who still have our mind, you know, we still haven't lost our mind and are trying to do fundamental CRM work that actually helps people make money and not just some AI toys.
Yeah. So we could talk the rest of the hour on just this. So here's the problem. The problem is that in reality, boy, you got to be careful how I say this. Most people don't understand what AI is. They only know, most people that don't know what it is realize it's the next big thing. To them, that's the level that they know, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the masses come, and that's what pushes the economy and all the development and all the R&D. Like, that's what's pushing it. And so that's going to be way before it really is really used on a, more mainstream basis. Now, I mean, there's some that is used mainstream that we don't realize as a normal consumer that's happening. Like a lot of it's happening already, right? But it's not the AI you're talking about. It's like that stuff is helpful and it can be a turbo boost, but you really already got to know what you're doing. It's back to the magic wand we talked about in the pilot.
Yeah.
Having AI does not make your company good.
Yeah.
Having AI does not make you a good salesperson. Having AI sure as hell doesn't make you a good manager that you're going to use to manage your people. Like having it is not what makes the difference. It's what you do with it. To do it well, then you need to know what you're doing with it, right? So is it important? Yeah, because it is going to be a big thing. The internet is a big thing. It wasn't at one time.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't understand it, right? And pets.com didn't make it.
Yeah.
Greatest idea on the planet, and went bankrupt. One of the first big websites. So having the .com got you public. It got you all the capital, but that doesn't mean you ran a good e-commerce site.
Yeah. In fact, the website, like the internet analogy, is really poignant. We still have libraries today. The libraries are not gone. In fact, there's a lot of services that libraries still offer. You can't decide that you're done with traditional structured CRMs and jump on to the next, let's put AI SDRs and let's just create a chatbot that I can just dump all my Excel sheets on and it'll just tell me what to do next. Because I was chatting with a friend who does HubSpot integrations and CPQ solutions, and he was telling me he was worried that people are gonna just skip the step of having clean, structured data and structured database with tables that talk to each other and go straight to ChatGPT. I can talk to it, so I don't have to go through all of that teething process as an organization to go from a disparate, a bunch of documents to a structured CRM. People are just going to skip that step and try to grow into it and into AI first, but nobody's going to do the actual needed work to clean up data, structure data, set up your systems, connect to your point solution, all of that work that we do every single day. We rarely encounter AI use. Mostly what we're doing is connecting systems between each other and making sure that the underlying data is clean and useful and accurate. But people are happy with, AI not being accurate as long as it's fast. It's mind-blowing just seeing a lot of professionals that I respected suddenly start putting out, AI content or AI images that are just garbled, and they're like, yeah, it just helping me punctuate my idea that I'm posting about. I'm like, dude, no, it's not. It's just making me just gloss over your entire point. Just focus on the fact that you were happy to put a garbled image that has weird text on it, as your cover sheet for your content. I don't know. It's just, I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm the only one that's left, with a functioning brain, and everybody's just jumping off a cliff being like, AI is going to fix everything.
Yeah. This is just .com all over again. But
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be in business and not have a website today. So, I mean, it's a process of going through technology like everything. Now it's escalated because things move faster now because of technology. So it's escalating quicker than the .com did, but it's is only as good as the value it provides and the service it provides. My take is, and I'm interested in your thoughts, the ones that do it well are skilled at doing it well. And it takes time to really get that skill down, that really take advantage of multiple AI tools to get things done at a high level without it looking like AI produced it. There are people like that. One of them is a friend of mine. She does it extremely well, works about 3 hours a day. This is a true story. Works about 3 hours a day. No one knows it, right? I'm not going to call her out, but she works
Yeah.
about 3 hours a day and no one knows it. And she does it by massively leveraging her AI tools. Not one, but like 8.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're really good at getting the most out of a tool, awesome, you can do it. But the problem that what's making you crazy is that you can use a tool poorly that's available and everyone else knows you're using it and it comes out poorly and gives you a poor result. Ultimately, that's going to come home to roost because there's a person doing that, right? And they're responsible for producing quality work at some point. But I feel like, okay, let's not be in the world of tech and let's be a consumer. We're receiving whatever AI is being used to push to us. Sometimes we know for sure. Sometimes we're like, wow, not sure. That's good. For me, as a receiver, I'm like, I don't care if it was AI or not. I either like it, and if they used AI to get it there, great. I'm great with that. Or I know for sure AI, and I don't mean the AI where we all know, like they put on the banner, AI did this. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the stuff that AI produced that we can tell it was produced poorly. I feel like those are snuffed out. And so it doesn't bother me like it bothers you because I feel like that's just not, like, I can totally tell.
Yeah.
And the ones that do it well, I'm like, hey, great, good job. Awesome.
Yeah. The reason why it bothers me is because I'm witnessing a lot of people around me, take all of their chips and go all in on AI as like the solo pillar of their endeavor. Like you see people from a lot of different industries that supposedly have some expertise in that industry jump on AI and try to become like it's like cryptocurrency and people who jumped on cryptocurrency and wanting to become like the next expert in cryptocurrency after being like, I don't know, a high school teacher or something. Like, why are you choosing like it's everybody who feels like if I get in on the ground floor, maybe I can be the next like sensation, but everybody's doing it at the same time. Everybody's flooding like all the channels with AI slop, basically. It's either making the competition to show up on the channels harder for people who are putting in the effort, or it's making it harder for someone who's doing sales outreach to show up in an inbox, or it's making a content marketer harder to show up on a timeline. All of that flooding. Yeah. Plus, if you're trying to look up something online and you land on a blog post and you realize this is just 3 sentences turned into like a gigantic blog post, it's getting to the point where you feel like expertise is not the main goal anymore. It's the output that people put out on these channels just to flood these channels and try to box out anyone who might have something insightful to say. Like, I'm a deeply technical person. Sometimes I'm looking for technical insight. I'm struggling to find it. I'm really struggling to find it because what everybody's doing, like you get people who've never written 2 sentences together saying, I'm going to be launching a book soon. Have you been writing this book for 2.5 years? No, I started yesterday. I'm going to launch it in a month. Wish I had a bleep button. What the hell are you talking about? Like, and you're going to write it in a field of expertise that you shouldn't be talking about and you have no credibility in. Oh yeah, it's just I ask AI and it tells me. Cool. That's like what are we doing? Plus, the other thing is you mentioned that people don't understand what AI is. If people understand what AI is, it is machine learning, and we've had AI for more than 20 years. But people don't understand that the breakthrough that happened was in a specific subset of AI that kind of unlocked new types of activities. Like, we've always had AI that can learn a pattern and then get unleashed on a set of data and replicate that pattern. That's what social media algorithms are. They have been told, hey, these are your instructions. These are your patterns that you need to follow. here's a large set of data, which in this case is people's posts, and you get to decide what goes where. We've always had that. In scientific research, you've always had AI to just go sift through billions of data points, because humans cannot do that, and come back with findings. Like, I have this data, help me find some patterns. So the AI can find patterns. What got unlocked recently was generative AI, which is same way you would do like in math, you can do like extrapolation. Like, oh, I know the equation here, so if I just increase my x-axis, I can assume that the line's going to be here. What is happening is it's got this huge amount of creative content, and it's just playing anagrams. Like, it's just taking a piece from here, piece from here, piece from here. So at this point, we're not creating net new ideas. And now that people are just using AI content to train AI, now we're recycling all of this already recycled content. You're getting to the point where, like, we're going to run out of original content. Like, I'm not just talking about like social media content or video or whatever. We're going to run out of net new ideas because people are not bothering to put together, their expertise, their research, and putting it in research papers and in blogs and, documentation. Nobody's bothering. Everybody's just recycling, the knowledge base that we've already have online. That's why I feel we're in a point where if you're interested in new ideas, you don't know where to turn to. But yeah, I've ran my rant too long.
Gloom and doom.
I guess.
Gloom and doom.
But yeah, like AI is really helpful. Like, to go back to like CRM land, HubSpot recently shared a couple of tools that nobody even mentioned on like mainstream channels. Like, there are some tools in reporting, for example, that can detect anomalies in your reports. And it shows you like, here's the expected band of results, and you have this data point right here. This sounds like an anomaly, and you can get a notification for that. That's an amazing use of AI. But that's not generative AI. That's AI that we've had for so long, but nobody understands that we've had it for so long. But I truly digress, because, like you said, we can go hours and hours talking about AI.
Well, so I think I can summarize my view, which is part frustration and part acceptance and part excitement, all three. So, I get very discouraged often with our public markets, because it's gotten to the point now where it's so driven to the earnings per share that, the headcount cut gets a stock boost. And it doesn't matter that when I go to Academy, even though there's 12 registers, only one person is there ringing people up. Because on a headcount basis, it shows up better on a P&L for that not to be the case. Could probably make the argument that's not true if they had more people on the registers, but that's for another discussion and somebody that's got a bigger calculator. So that drive means that the narrative in business is you have to have AI, because what does AI do? Saves you time and money. And so that whole narrative is feeding what we have in our DNA today, in our economic culture, that to grow profits, to grow a business, you have to save time and money. And that's the narrative that AI, that's the promise of AI in a very general public AI brand stance, is the promise is I'm going to save you time and money. And so it's interpreted that if you have AI as a company, you're going to save time and money. Boom, I must invest in you. And so that message of we just launched AI will hit every single company. And anybody that doesn't have that message is done. Like, you're out.
Yes.
And haters come at me, but Apple almost lost the ball, because I don't know how many tens of billions you need in the bank to miss this one. But they were so far behind in starting, they just had to go buy it. Yeah. Now, kudos to them. They bought it, because had they not, they would have plummeted in a big way.
Yeah.
Because the narrative is you don't have it, right?
I wonder if it were better for them to not have it, since they tested like this AI summary for a notification that just started
I
saying,
mean,
just
they,
hallucinating and saying people died and things happened that never happened.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe time will tell. But what I do know is that public companies are not willing to take the risk of a short-term hit for what they think is better long-term. I just don't believe that. Right.
Yeah.
So that narrative is here to stay. That's the frustration part. The acceptance part is I do save time using AI, and I like the way I use it. It doesn't dominate my day, but I do save time using it. I'll take it. I do receive things that are AI generated. I'll take it. The ones that I like, I'll take it. Someday, there will be conveniences that I end up liking to a great degree because AI has taken over whatever thing that I like, and it's now driven by AI, and I like it at that point. I know that's going to happen, probably not very long from now. So I have that level of acceptance. And the excitement is that in reality, we don't know the really cool shit that's possible yet.
Yeah.
There's some really cool shit happening behind closed doors that we don't know about. There's a big scary part to that. I get that. I'm not talking about that part. I'm just saying there's going to be some really cool stuff that comes out of it that we don't know. And I'm looking forward to what that is, because when that happens, that kind of stuff really fascinates me.
Yeah. Until then, we're going to keep talking about how to turn your Excel sheet into useful data in your CRM. So we work in the HubSpot space, but it's not always that people are talking about HubSpot CRM. Sometimes they are looking at HubSpot to be the next beating bag for the new proclamation of SEO is dead. Did you see that the story of HubSpot losing organic traffic just ravaged through LinkedIn, and everybody had a take on it to the point where HubSpot themselves had to come out and discuss some things that they said, oh, this is internal. We didn't want to talk about it, but literally this is blowing up, so we're going to have to address it. And basically the gist of it, yes, HubSpot, who is the grandfather of inbound marketing and like basically pioneered the idea of you make content and people come to you and you make money, have lost 80% of their organic traffic. But if you look at their, numbers, you realize revenue is up. So a lot of people, got lost in the sauce. People who have products that basically need SEO to be dead, used it as a proclamation to say SEO is dead, use my thing instead. But I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about like this whole idea of when traffic goes down, it doesn't necessarily mean revenue needs to go down. Sometimes revenue does go up.
So what I am very passionate about is the right usage of a CRM gives you data to look at, number one, but ultimately it can really flush out some formulas that can make things really tick. And the mistake that is often made is making assumptions on what drives business. Like, it's a huge mistake. And in this case, it's not traffic. Okay, it's really a good thing that they're buttoned up with their numbers as a business. Because if they weren't buttoned up as a business, knowing their numbers and knowing what does make their business tick, they would have been worried about that, and they would have spent time and money to fix a problem that didn't need to be fixed. Super common in lower level businesses to try to fix something they're assuming is the problem, which may not be the problem. That's what I love about the power of CRM. This is a philosophy that I try to remember in my role. I've done it my whole career. I've learned it from a mentor early on. And that's those who spend 10% of their time on what the problem is and 90% of their time in solving it. But those who spend 90% of their time understanding what the problem is only have to spend 10% of their time to solve it. That's best perfect CRM implementation philosophy to have. Because a lot of people would say, traffic's down, that's a problem. Let's go spend all this time and money to fix it, not knowing that that's actually not the problem.
Yeah.
That's my take.
So HubSpot came out and, pulled the curtain aside and showed us what's going on. And to explain a piece of it, I need to mention a couple of years ago, Google came out with the concept of a zero-click search, which before they used to, when you search something, they give you a list of links that you would click and find what you need. But at some point, they started, trying to understand what type of information you're looking for and trying to serve you that information without you clicking any links. At the time, people panicked. Companies were like, what's the point of me trying to make contact if you're not sending people to my website? And everybody was being angry, etc. Today, that is turned up to 11 with AI search, because now you're not just getting that snippet of information on Google. AI search is just taking all the information of the site and just putting it in some other channel. And rarely do they give you like a link to go and look for more. They'd rather tell you like, hey, ask me more questions. I'll pull every data you need. So that is one aspect that HubSpot mentioned. The other aspects are influencer-driven marketing and video content. Two things that typically live on social media platforms that are not really traffic generators for websites. But that does not mean that they do not increase brand awareness, they do not capture mindshare, and do not generate inbound leads. So, and you've known, like, since we've met, I talk a lot about like creating video content, being present on networking sites, trying to capture that brand awareness, trying to capture that mind share using video content through thought leadership, etc. This is kind of what we're trying to do here. Like this podcast is a chance for us to have these conversations in a recorded format that we can share. To do that specifically. And the concepts of, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of the concept of dark social?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard it, but I don't know that I could tell you what it really means.
So the idea behind dark social, a lot of people fight about who coined the term and who started talking about it. But it's the idea that some people figured out that if you create content that doesn't necessarily lead to website traffic, but instead leads to people sharing it in their private channels, that is basically word of mouth in a digital age. Like when people tell each other, hey, you should check out this thing, that's not going to show up in analytics. That's not going to show up in, click attribution. This is not going to show up in website traffic. But how powerful is it if an individual contributor takes a piece of content that you made, pastes it in a Slack channel or a Teams channel? I'm sorry if you use Teams, but in a Teams channel, and their manager who writes the check, watches that piece of content, and suddenly they're browsing your website and, booking a meeting with a rep. If you're a marketing operations person, you understand that there's a break in the chain. You have this individual contributor that saw something online, took the link, shared it internally, and then a different person continued the chain on a different channel. If you look at analytics, it shows you this deal was sourced by direct traffic. Direct traffic means somebody typed your address or clicked the link with no referral. That's nonsense. If you look at that and don't feel like there's something going on more than just people looking up your website directly in their address bar, you shouldn't be doing marketing. But a lot of people started seeing that and seeing a lot of direct traffic. We're getting decision makers coming directly to our website. How's that happening? The way it happens is by you creating thought leadership content for individual contributors to consume, for individual contributors to, for the lack of a better term, get indoctrinated on your strategic narrative and become fully invested in it to the point where they're taking your content and sharing it in their private channels. The reason why they call it dark social is because there's no attribution link. You can't see the metrics that say, this piece of content gave me this deal. Now you're going to say, that's scary for people who sign off on budgets, for example. Like if a marketer comes to a manager and says, hey, I can't really prove to you that this is going to make sense, but I would love to put on a costume and dance on a TikTok because that's going to make us a lot of money. You and I both know that that is true. There is a high potential that you dancing in a costume is going to lead to increased orders on your website. But there's no attribution that links the two together. So you as a manager who's signing off on this have a choice to make. You either shut that down and double down on things you can track, which are basically ads and outbound cold calling and all of that like direct traffic generation, or you take a leap of faith and risk the person not delivering, and then you're the idiot who signed off on this stupid marketing activity. So like that's like the environment around dark social. The reason why we're talking about dark social is because HubSpot attributes a lot of their content effort working on dark social, saying like people don't necessarily directly click on links, but they talk about it. And especially with a lot of the partner ecosystem sharing product updates, sharing knowledge, sharing insight, a lot of these videos get shared, a lot of these blog posts get shared internally, a lot of people end up converting on HubSpot. So to summarize it, like HubSpot made a deliberate effort to take a step away from organic traffic and into these new channels. But as usual, LinkedIn decided, hey, this is the perfect time to shill our services by saying HubSpot did a big no-no.
Yeah. Well, to me, you kind of proved exactly what I was saying in a way more eloquent and technical way. But let me give you a real life example. That's not technical, but it literally is today's world. I hear it all the time. So I grew up in the fitness industry. And so I was running large retail chains. You got a salesperson which I started on the floor. That's where I started. So you're on the floor and you get to the register, you just made a sale, and to the company, it's significant. I mean, the average sale is $3,000. So you have $3,000 average treadmill. And the question is, how did you hear about us? Now, if that piece of information was ever accurate, could you imagine how valuable that would be for the marketing director of that company?
Yeah.
But one of the options is I saw you driving by. So you had TV, radio, billboard, newspaper, referral, drive-by. So in the fitness world, drive-by, across the board, didn't matter what company, doesn't matter. Drive-by was by far the number one response. How did you hear about us? In reality, may have been, I saw you and thought I need to go there and look at treadmills. Very possible. But what's more likely is I heard you on the radio, didn't necessarily register that I heard you, but I did. Saw a billboard, didn't necessarily register that I saw the billboard, but I did. Saw the ad in Saturday's newspaper, and didn't really register the fact that I've heard you on the radio, saw the billboard, saw the ad. Now I'm compelled to come in. And I remember that I drive by here every once in a while and saw you there. And the last thing I did was drive to you. And so the answer is I drove by. So what did the fitness industry do? Top end leases all the time. Best location I can get my hands on, jack that rent up. What do we know now? What does the fitness industry know now? In reality, it's a destination product. People will drive to wherever you are to buy it.
Yeah.
All that rent money, based on the fact that the assumption is people know us because they drove by. It's just making huge business decisions on the wrong number and not knowing it. Now we have the opportunity to really connect things, even though you're saying, I don't know, we're not going to be able to connect to everything, but
in fact, the thing you described is exactly why every single B2B company is starting a podcast. Because a couple of years ago, there was a couple of successful, dare I call them pioneers, that had podcasts, and they had the like mandatory field of like, how did you hear about us? It wasn't a drop down, it was an open text, and everybody was doing it because they started figuring out some insights they didn't recognize before. And a lot of people were saying, like, I saw your content on LinkedIn, I listened to your podcast, and you mentioned this thing on the podcast, And now I'm interested in learning more about it. And suddenly people were like, oh crap, this is gold. Let's do this. And everybody has podcasts. So there's so many podcasts that nobody's listening. But I bet you they're listening to this one. I blame myself for rambling on about AI. We're getting close to wrapping up this episode. I know we had a lot of topics we wanted to talk about, but I feel we might be better suited to talk about them in the next episode. Is there any closing thoughts you wanna leave with?
Well, here's what's interesting. I don't really come to this, like, I don't really show up with a particular message in mind or a goal in mind. But this is the second time in a row that just through the process, there seems to have been a sort of backstory, moral of the story, I guess you would. I don't know. That's probably a good analogy. And for me, it's really about, it's not about finding a replacement. It's just about leveraging tools you can get a hold of and being able to maximize the tool. Like, it's not about just the next thing. It's about what can I add? Companies that do well stack. They call it a tech stack for a reason, right?
Yeah.
There's not one single technology that any really successful business can run its entire platform on. There's no way, right? You have to have something. You got to have an email tool. You got to have an ERP. You've got to have, right? So, I mean, you're going to have a stack. But how they work best is if it's a value stack. Like, how it works best is if each tool adds value, right? And then being willing to just notice, hey, this is not really adding value. I don't care that it's the best AI on the planet. In general, we're not leveraging it to its maximum. It's got a cost to it. It's not adding the value to me. I'm okay letting go of this, even though it's got the shiny. It's very shiny, but I'm okay letting go of it because I need my stack to add value at every layer. For me, it's really about just keeping that in mind. You're still going to have to be the best at what you are. Each role needs to perform, and each tool needs to perform. And if AI helps that, great. Just make sure it is.
Yeah.
Like, just make sure. That's all. You're paying for it. Just make sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's something that I always used to say, and a lot of people kind of judged me and said, like, you've never been in a highly scaled company. That thing doesn't make sense. Every sales, marketing, and service professional needs to have self-awareness and needs to ask themselves, anytime there's a customer-facing process that they want to implement, and now it's more important than ever with the advent of AI tools, would you be okay being on the receiving end of this? If no, then you got a problem. If yes, good job. But like, if you're okay with being on the receiving end of this process, then you're doing a good job. But if you're not, then maybe you need to consider that this efficiency that you're gaining might be hurting your bottom line because it's driving away your customer base or your prospect base, or,
Yeah, it's not performing the way it really could perform. You don't know that because you don't have the rep, but I mean, it's not performing. I know we're wrapping up, but I had a customer conversation today, and I don't know the guy, but I was proud of him. The rep was talking about AI. The rep was talking about how they could do the blog posts and it could get written for you, and that's fine. And the guy was like, that's great as long as it's good. That's great as long as I'm proud of it, because I don't care how fast it is. If it does not represent my brand in the way I want it represented, and if I'm not good with it, I'm not putting it on my site. So I don't care how good it is. Like, I was like, dang, dude, there we go. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. We need more self-aware revenue professionals to be doing that, and to save our inboxes, save our LinkedIn feeds, and save our service calls, because the last thing I want when Amazon botches my delivery is to wade through 3 AI agents to get to a human that most likely isn't gonna solve my problem.
You're just bringing up that now? Like, we could have talked about that for an hour.
I know, right? So, James, I know last time you couldn't figure out, but I know this time you can. Where can people find you on the internet?
Just go to ChatGPT. And, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn at James Bond Advantage. Easy. Just James Bond Advantage on LinkedIn. That's the best place.
Yeah, and you can find me, Selim Maalouf, as well on LinkedIn. We're both very responsive. We post content on LinkedIn. You might also see some snippets of this conversation on LinkedIn. And if you've stayed with us until now, thank you so much for listening. These episodes are on YouTube. We're working on getting them on Spotify. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, dude. See you guys.